I'm a miserable college student.
What's keeping you from leaving Amherst?
The fact that I come from an immigrant family that, like, has struggled so much for me to just get to this point that leaving would be the most ungrateful, selfish, like, act I could imagine doing.
What would you do, though, if you were ungrateful and selfish?
I'd go to so many mountains. Like, I would just road trip to fucking Mexico. Like, all of Latin America. Just see all of it. Try to help as many people as I can, like, as I go along this route. Just, like, learning from people. Try to avoid harm. Try to just learn how to be a person, right? That can exist in the world and isn't given just food on a fucking, like platter, and isn't, like, you have to go figure shit out. I don't know. Like, just actually try to get by. I don't know, survive. I want to try surviving.
Survive. It's really all we have to do. It's simple. But, obviously, we set up all sorts of expectations and limitations on that, from ideas of morality that we're born into or develop for ourselves, to the demands of our economic systems. And things suddenly get really complicated, really quickly. Survival starts to feel a lot less free. And then maybe very few of the things we do are wholly free or original. And so we find ourselves, for the time being, miserable, living a life we didn't pick for ourselves. And in this series, I think that's really what's going to be guiding the topics we cover here. Ideas of making our lives more deliberate, making them our own. Because I have a growing suspicion that so much of how I think and see and act is fundamentally wrong. That I'm just the result of our particular time in history, one of solipsism and self-deception and a desire for comfort that blinds us of the consequences of our choices. And because my experience right now as a student revolves so much around this, I had to start with college.
You need to get up, get out, and get something. Don't spend all your time trying to get high. You need to get up, get out, and get something. How will you make it if you never even try? You need to get up, get out, and get something. Cause you and I got to do for you and I don't recall ever graduating at all. Sometimes I feel I'm just a disappointment to y'all. Every day I just lay around, then I can't be found. Always asking, give me some living life like a
world of frustration and hope, obligation, anxiety, loans, classism, hedonism, and somewhere inside of all this, children transitioning into adulthood. And so this episode isn't about alternatives or escapes. It's about finding if it's possible to bring the mountains into college, to see what forces brought us here, and how we can make it our own. The voice you heard at the start was Esperanza Chares, my co-host here at Uncultured, and the inspiration for this episode. This is what my backyard sounds like at night. Now that we're friends, I think we can start. Part 1. The end.
Yeah, like, I'm at the end of college. I'm at the, like, brink of what I've been wanting to do and what I've been doing everything for. So now, like, I'm prepared for it. I know what I'm doing. Like, all that's left is, like, the last bit and, like, actually do it.
That's my sister, sitting on a bed with really squeaky springs and knitting. Later, when she gets thoughtful, she'll start smacking her needles together. Her birth certificate reads Beatriz. Myself and most of her friends call her Betty, but if you met her in college, you met B. And she's done it. She'll be graduating from Cornell in May, looking to get into the Peace Corps, and after that, finding a job, And so, with college almost behind her, what was it all for?
Well, like, my college education was necessary to figure out what the hell I wanted to do. Because, like, in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew very clearly what I didn't want to do, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And, like...
And how did college narrow that?
Well, just, like, taking classes, like, I immediately took one anthropology class and was like, wow, this is not for me. Like, what I really wanted to do was just travel a lot, but that's not the same thing as being an anthropologist, you know?
So college can help us find direction, purpose, etc. This is the noble stuff you'll find on most brochures. But what they leave out is that this process itself deeply informs what we feel we ought to be doing. Higher education comes with severe expectations, and Betty feels this acutely, because what Betty wants to be is a park ranger, an Ivy League educated park ranger. I've never heard her use this phrase without disdain.
I feel like I still can't validate the amount of money, but the...
You worry about that?
Yeah.
Like, do you feel guilty?
Yeah.
In, like, to who? In what way?
Well, like... I don't know. I feel like to pay off, or, like, to, like, socially pay off that much money, you have to be, like, an engineer or a doctor or someone who's, like, significantly changing society, you know?
Okay, wait, so you see college as, like, you are taking away from society and, like, just being interested in yourself?
Well, just, like, paying that much money, I don't know. I feel like I'm not doing anything practical with that money, you know? Like, as practical as I could be.
So it's like you said, okay, so money exists as, like, this thing that we can, like, get things. So you're like, okay, I could build a house or, like, build a hospital.
Like, I feel like it wasn't a great investment. I could have, or, I don't know, yeah.
That's a weird way to think of it, yeah. Where it's like, this, they're putting money in to, like, change your brain
Yeah.
in a way that is, like,
and
the way
like,
you're framing it, hopefully at the end, valuable enough.
Do something for it.
That creates, like, use.
That I, like, deserve this much, like, focus in education. But at the same time, I'm going to be like, fuck everything. I'm an Ivy League educated park ranger.
And so now the part you've been expecting, where we talk about the obvious reasons so many of us choose to go to college. That right now, in this country, we really, really, really need it. And that this is also unbelievably unfair.
Well, like, graduating high school, I wasn't qualified to do anything. Nothing in our society, you can't do anything in our society with high school education. Like, you can flip burgers, and you can, like, pack shit, and, like, work in a factory, but, like, to get, like, a job, that's, like, that whole, like, Trump supporters freaking out because the jobs that, like, validated them aren't there anymore, and now they're working, like, shitty, like, potato chip packing firms. Like, that's the problem. Like, our high school does not prepare you to anything else except packing potato chips. No one's gonna hire you for that. I mean, high school makes you a functioning adult, basically. That's what it does. You can read, you know what money is, you know how that works, you can, like, you know the context of, like, America as a country, you know, like, certain things, like, yeah, high school qualifies you to be an adult, it doesn't qualify you for a job that you're gonna like.
There it is. If you want an economically or intellectually fulfilling job, you have to pay for an education. The state promises you free education, just up until it starts mattering to you in terms of real social mobility. And once you start having to pay for things, only the wealthy can obtain them. And if you're unfortunate enough to also live in a country that tells itself that its hierarchies are based on something as egalitarian and fair as education, you'll rot, ignored while the rest of the country sleeps soundly. So we have to go to college, and we also have to feel guilty for being Ivy League educated park rangers, for doing what we want. Part 2. Rigged from the start. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. 13. 14. 15. 16. 17. 18. 19. 20. 21. 22. 23. 24. 25. 26. 27. 28. 29. 30. 31. 32. 33. 34. 35. 36. 37. 38. 39. 40. 41. 42. 43. 44. 45. 46. 47. 48. 49. 50. 51. 52. 53. 54. 55. 56. 57. 58. 59. 60. 61. 62. 63. 64. 65. 66. 67. 68. 69. 70. 71. 72. 73. 74. 75. 76. 77. 78. 79. 80. 81. 82. 83. 84. 85. 86. 87. 88. 89. 90. 91. 92. 93. 94. 95. 96. 97. 98. 99. 100. 101. 102. 103. 104. 105. 106. 107. 108. 109. 110. 111. 112. 113. 114. 115. 116. 117.
I think just making metrics by itself is kind of flawed because everybody is different. Like, if we know that we have to do community service, we're going to do it. But would we have done it anyway?
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is V. I interviewed her near a pond in her backyard. She told me people are always thinking it's a public park and come to do Tai Chi. Her parents kick them out. V's a senior at my old high school and is applying to colleges. Nice colleges. UT, Cambridge, Rice, Amherst, Brown, Cornell, Columbia, Duke, and UPenn. And yet,
It actually doesn't matter. Like, in 30 years, if you are, like, if you were the same person and you chose to go to UT instead of Amherst, like, you're going to do exactly the same financially. Like, the only group that doesn't work for is low-income students, where, like, the place that they go actually makes a difference. But I would argue in the long run, like, I don't think it would make a huge impact on, like, if you look quantitatively at my life. I don't think it would make a huge impact on where I went.
which begs the question, why the 9 nice schools?
Still kind of answering that question myself. Like, it makes a lot of sense financially to go to UT. So, I don't really know. Part of it is, like, I kind of want to move away from Texas. Part of it is, I guess, I want something where I can grow as a person, but, like, it seems ridiculous to say that I couldn't do that at UT, because I would anyway.
And it just seems like earlier you were saying where I go really fundamentally doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, I still don't know why I'm applying to a bunch of selective schools.
You, like, literally can't.
Yeah, I can't answer that.
Whoa.
I'm sure some people could, because, like, they're applying to specific programs, and they're like, well, I want to do, like, economics at UChicago, and that's the best place for economics, anywhere.
So for now, you've just bought into,
What they're marketing, basically.
even though you know what they're marketing you could get anywhere.
Yeah. You can't
That's-
not play the system.
Yeah. And it seems like you're kind of in the same, but you're also not, because you're like, the system, I don't need it, you know? You're like, I don't need an education from Brown and Harvard or whatever. Like, it's the same as an education from UT. But I'm still going to buy into the system. LOL.
Yeah.
Huh.
I think part of it is also, like, peer pressure, like, especially from my parents and from my family in general, because a lot of them went to Rice. They expect me to do better than them, which is kind of insane when you think about it, because Rice is a good school. But they expect me to go out and do great things, and part of that is, like, how high the college that I go to is ranked, like, how much money I make in 20 years, stuff like that.
This taps into the idea of college as a means of securing class. And class, as always, is obsessed with displaying. And the college application process is the time to do just that. In an article titled 21st Century Victorians, Jason Teeb notes a chilling trend in the modern middle class to use the same logic of creating moral superiority to assert class dominance as the Victorians. He writes, "But the capstone of the modern quest for education in the form of personal cultivation is surely the college application process. There is no good 19th century analog for this ridiculous new ritual, although Dickens would have been perfectly able to satirize its inherent absurdity. Millions act as if a system weighted very heavily towards privilege is in fact some kind of meritocracy, and that a person's worth can be judged by the prestige of the school where they have been accepted. Most Americans who go to college only apply to a couple schools, but upper-class children take standardized test prep classes, intern, or travel over the summer to have material for their entrance essays, and often apply to a dozen schools, all to maximize their chances at getting into the one with the best name. Parents, no matter their children's actual intellectual capacities, can then rest easy in the knowledge they are of a better sort than the plebes who attended directional state U." I read this quote to V. She nodded.
Like, I've been fed into the system and I've played along with it. Like, I went to an ACT prep class, traveled over the summer, I've done an internship. Like, does that make me necessarily smarter than people who didn't do that? Would I do better in college? I have no idea. But, like, if you look at my college application, like, it's going to look more full than other people's.
Yeah.
And is that fair to judge prestige by the amount of stuff that I do? Like, I don't really know.
Because I guess the distinction I would make isn't that, like, you doing these things doesn't necessarily make you smarter. It does make you smarter, and it does make you more prepared for college, and, like, maybe that's, like, the problem. Is that, like, yeah, if this was all just, like, oh, yeah, like, traveling, all this stuff, like, it doesn't matter, then it's, like, super easy to fix college. Like, it's just, like, oh, stop making that a thing you value, and let's value just smart. But it's, like, the problem is that, like, you actually are a better candidate, and, like, then it's not just a matter of, like, changing the standards of, like, how you accept, because if we're still going to have to always base it on, like, who is smarter, and it's, like, you are smarter because you had, like, more opportunities than, like, whatever, some kid. So then it's, like, the way you reform it is by, like, making American society classless, which is, like, LOL.
Yeah. I mean, you can take that in comparison to the UK system, because their college application is completely based on academics. Like, there's not a section where you input, like, I did this extracurricular and it made me grow as a person because why?
Yeah.
It's literally just based. Did you get these test scores? Like, did you show up to your interview and did you say smart things? Like, they don't care about the rest of it. But I think also, like, college is a place where people grow. Like, they don't necessarily have to be there fully formed, like, well-traveled, like, all of these things. Like, they'll grow into it.
Does any part of you not want to go to college?
No, I like learning. Like, reading, like, sitting in classes, it's actually fun for me. Like, I don't see what else I would rather be doing with my life at this point. I could have rebelled. I could have, like, failed all my classes because I didn't want to do school. And then I could have not gone to college because I wouldn't have gotten in. I could have gone to A&M. God, that would suck. I don't know, stuff like that. But, like, I fed into the system for too long at that point to give up then. It was probably a good thing I actually like school. I like learning, stuff like that. Because by the time I was old enough to know that I didn't actually have to make great grades, and, like, I didn't have to do, like, all these amazing extracurriculars. Like, it was kind of too late.
Yeah. That's spooky. Right?
A little bit. Because, like, the best example for that is violin. Like, most of my friends quit by sophomore year, like, taking private lessons. Or quit orchestra in general. A lot of my friends did that. But, like, I'm still playing. I'm preparing for a senior recital right now. Like, do I love violin? I don't know, maybe. But, like, it's not what I want to do in life. I may play in college, I'm not sure. But, like, I could have made the choice to quit, and I didn't, because by that point, I had played, like, 10 years. Like, why would I quit?
That's really spooky.
A little bit.
Yeah, I don't really have a follow-up. I'm just kind of like, yikes. Because, yeah, I think that's, like, deep down, like, the truth is just we're all, like...
We're just feeding into our parents' concepts of what a perfect kid should be.
Yeah, how do you think you'll raise your kids? Assuming you're gonna have children.
Yeah. Probably in a lot of the same ways. Like...
Right? Yeah.
Like, nothing's going to change.
Part 3. What changed?
It's crazy.
Oh, God. I want everyone at Penn to get sent to jail.
This is Shilpa, a misanthrope attending UPenn. Hers was the longest interview, but also the one that spent the least amount of time actually talking about college. So in honor of all the great tape that I can't use, here's 2 minutes of some choice moments from our talk.
I think that Buddhism's a perfect argument for why the existence of God is not the question you should be asking about religion.
Your body thinks that you just made a kid with this person. Yeah. Like, as much as you know and you're this modern person, your body, the understanding of your body is like, that's your partner.
Yeah.
You're gonna raise a kid with that person now, because I just orgasmed, and that's a baby now that's gonna have, like, obviously, that's totally like disassociated from reality now, but it's like that's what your brain thinks
Yeah.
chemically is. So it's like, yeah, like, oh, it's just sex. It's like, is it though?
It never is. I'm all for psychedelics.
Right?
Yeah. But if you don't know what you want and you're on Tinder, then, like, you're just as bad on Tinder as you are in the real world.
Yeah. And I'm like, and dating is already so fucking easy. Like, it's literally just like, hey, do you want to go put food in our mouths at this
Yeah.
place? It's so, like, it used to be like, you gotta court the parents and bring the flower and, like, do
Yeah.
all these, like, symbolic ritual. It's like, all of that is stripped away. It's literally just go have a
It's
conversation
so
with this person.
easy.
See if you respect them. Like, it's
Yeah.
just, like, very immediate, like, it's still hard work and just, like, like, what does it mean to be in a thing and da-da-da, and there's, like, a lot of conversations you have to
You
have.
can be sneaky about it if you want to. I didn't understand I was being taken on a date. When I went on my first date with my now boyfriend. I just didn't get it at all.
You're just hanging out, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, alright, we're just eating food, that's fine. Then he picked up the bill and I was like, do you normally do this?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so, like, you don't even have to actually ask the person out.
You should eventually.
No, you're right. If you murder someone, they are no longer there.
Okay, back to college. So at this point in our conversation, any semblance of a structured interview had devolved, and it was very much an equal conversation. So I'll be playing it without editing. All you need to know is that Shilpa had earlier explained that her parents saw college as the time of their lives, while Shilpa's experience was one primarily characterized by anxiety over marketability. What has changed, do you think, from, like, your parents' to us?
My dad thinks the only thing that's changed is that you're expected to find an internship after your freshman year. And then that is really what gets you going in the rat race. And, you know, kind of stops you from taking that road trip you always wanted to take. Etc., etc. Because all of his stories about college are just of him, you know, working hard, but also having a lot of fun and doing things that were entirely unrelated to his major.
But now you think it's imbued every aspect.
Now everything you do, it's like applying to college all over again, right?
Just
you want a
'cause-
good resume.
Do you think things are more competitive now?
Yeah.
Or
I
just like
I don't know.
neoliberalism, like ideology, da-da-da?
That made it more competitive, right?
Okay.
I think. That,
Or just like inequality is so insane that it's like the difference between achievement and non-achievement is just a universe apart in terms of like standard of living. Like the idea of failure is like much more terrifying now than it used to be.
I think that is true for a greater number of people, and that's why college is the way it is. But is it true for the people or true for their parents? And
Yeah, I don't know how much. I really don't think of my life past 2 years, and I don't know many people that concretely actually do, or like.
I can't imagine myself as a failure. But, like, no matter what I do in college, I just don't. I think a lot of people, they have this crazy optimism that is typical of, 19 and 20-year-olds. That they won't screw up.
Everything ever in your life has been through, like, you are so special to yourself.
Yeah.
You are so fucking special to
Yeah.
yourself. All of everything ever has been within you, and then it's like, yeah, of course, just by being me and being in any field, I'm gonna be hot shit.
Yeah.
Because I'm everything that has ever existed to me, and it's like so hard to be like, no, you're one of 300 million people in this country that all want what we all want.
Do people imagine themselves failing?
See, more than failing, what you were saying earlier of like, you were like talking about like being more or less risk averse than your parents, and I was like, gee, Shilpa is like a lot more like conscious of her future and what she's doing now, how it relates to that, than I have ever been or am. And I just think I very much shut down any speculation past, like, I will take these classes next semester with the idea of, like, obtaining, like, anything outside of that very quickly just becomes me getting, like, really bad anxiety attacks or just, like, being disgusted in, like, in all, like, forms of living.
Oh no.
today. Like, it's just like everything seems like selfish or empty or this or that.
It kind of is.
Like, I only see a future of me selling something out. And, like, I already am selling out a lot of, like, what I think is, like, valuable and important. Yeah, like, literally, we just need to, like, not be modern.
I agree with you there, actually. I think technology has helped, obviously, but it's crossed the point where
It's not making our lives better.
Yeah, where it's crossed the point where it's making our lives better in the U.S. and is now just making our lives difficult and making the lives of the youth difficult. Because we're the generation that didn't grow up thinking the internet was like this crazy new thing.
Yeah.
We're the first generation to see it as like a fact of life and something that...
Right.
Yeah, one, a right. Great. And two, this thing that makes the need for everything so much more immediate. You wouldn't be trying to get internships your freshman year if the internet didn't exist, because you wouldn't be able to find them. No recruiters would show up for freshmen. The reason that we are, like, being told to, you know, tailor ourselves perfectly to what a recruiter our senior year would want is because we can.
Yeah.
With the internet. Or, I mean, supposedly we can. I think it's pretty hard.
Yeah, it's just like your value is so much more attached and immediate
Yeah.
to, like, displaying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. And, yeah, sorry, the original thought of this when you were like, I don't remember, but you were like, is it scarier for the parents or for the kids? Do you remember what the thing... And my thing was just, like, my thought was just like, yeah, like, I'm not scared at all.
Oh.
Just because I have no...
The idea of failure, yeah.
I have nothing to fail in. You know, like, for your parents it makes sense because they have this, like, concrete set of values that is, like, I want my kid to be prosperous and wealthy and have friends and be loved and da-da-da. Like, it's like, that makes sense for them. So they can be scared of, like, how you are moving in your path to this idea. But I think me... And most people my age, that doesn't exist because we're so... It's just so hard to see yourself outside of yourself.
I think maybe the idea of failure creeps in. I'm not even sure it can exist at age 22 or 23. But maybe it creeps in once people start getting married.
I'm gonna cut some stuff out now because I go on for a bit and it's not that interesting.
What constitutes failure in the end? Like...
Discord between values and reality.
Yeah, your own... I mean, there's so many ways you can fail yourself, I guess. You can sell out, and in some ways that is a failure. In every single other way, you're, like, a wild success.
Yeah.
Or you can make, like... You graduate from this name-brand college and flip burgers, and if that's what you always wanted to do, then, you know, that's a success. But you are failing your parents' expectations. I don't know if you're failing yourself if you're doing just exactly what you want to do. You're failing society's expectations of you, but are you failing yourself?
Okay, this is a good way of thinking of things. It's like, is there a way to live without... Like, I guess, literally, unless the things you feel an obligation to, i.e., like, your parents, your society, and yourself, unless all three of those value systems are identical, in some way you will always feel guilt.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm an artist, I did it, but I'm not making money, dang it. And it's like, I don't care about money, like, I have food and a bed, I'm fine materially and, like, health-wise, but you'll still feel like a failure, or you are at Wall Street and you did the thing, you're like, I don't get to paint, though.
Yeah.
Or, like, your dad wanted for you to be a dentist, or, like, it's like...
You're doing everything.
Yeah, and I feel like people beat themselves up so much about that without, like, it's gonna happen.
You will always be a failure to someone. Yeah.
And that's maybe the closest to a conclusion that I can come on all this. that maybe all we can do is choose carefully, weighing our values, who we're going to disappoint. Part 4. Choice. Java shake is sweets.
What?
Java shake is sweets.
Of course. Where else? Look at this.
That's here.
Yes. It's beautiful.
This is Maddie. She's showing me a picture of the sky in College Station, our hometown. We both miss the skies here. Big, wide, and yes, beautiful. She goes to the University of Texas at Austin. Pretty in its own way, but too many buildings for the fat skies we have here. Maddie was the first person I interviewed when I got home, which is fitting, because in any situation that requires moral clarity, or emotional maturity or kindness, Maddie's the first person I call. I have on my wall an old letter from her. Quote, "Most everyone encounters a person, sometime or another, that makes them realize that they aren't even close to knowing everything." Maddie is studying philosophy via Plan 2, a hyper-selective program within UT, and, kind of out of nowhere, became a Division I varsity rower. Her boyfriend, Nick, wants to qualify for the Olympics. She lives in a world of dedication and focus that is completely foreign to me. And while I don't really have an interest in rowing, I do have an interest in what informs and allows this sort of deliberate living. She's used college as a place to choose.
Especially the beginning is like I don't even know what I care about at all, and then you just find some sort of thing to hold on to see how it feels, because you can't just rip around wondering always, because it just hurts and it's confusing and like tiring and like you don't,
Yeah.
So that's kind of how rowing happened, was like I need a handhold.
Then this makes sense.
And this, I love being on a team. This is something, like, this was one of my favorite things I did in high school. Like, I'm gonna go for it. And, like, maybe I'll be really good at it, and that'd be kind of exciting. And so then I did it, and I loved it. It took me a while to figure out that I loved it, but I loved it eventually. And then it has ended up being, like, this thing that I've never committed this much time, lifestyle change.
Anyone that's committed this much to anything, it has been kind of incredible to see happen.
Yeah, and it's like, and I do feel like it's like making me like peek at what being an adult's going to be like, kind of. And I appreciate that, because I kind of needed that.
So adulthood, all of our futures, as a focused escape from ripping around. But what struck me about how Maddie chose was that it almost had very little to do with rowing itself. Sure, she says it had health benefits and forced her to be efficient with her time, but really, what rowing is to Maddie, anything could be to anybody. It's more of a general worldview with the same core values as any philosophy that finds terror in our mortality and tries to make the most of our time here.
Probably my favorite thing about it is it's this thing that you go to and someone tells you you should be asking more of yourself, and like you can be getting more, and like you should be trying, like trying hard.
Okay.
And like trying to get better. Like when you're doing a thing, you should be trying to do it the best you can do it.
So it's like self-improvement is a end in itself.
Yeah. And because it ends up pouring into everything, Like, it's like, it's a very constant reminder of, like, why are you at school if you're just going to sit there and not care what they're saying to you? Even if you don't care, like, it's like you already have to be there. So try to care, Like, try to get as much as you can out of the things you're doing. And this is also very much like a thing of the coach I had last year. Like she was trying to give us an example of like something she does every day that she's not like trying her very best at. And she had to think about it for a while. Like, for a while. And she was like, brushing my teeth. Brushing my teeth, I could be more effortful in it, but but it doesn't really, like, that's this thing that you just kind of have to do, and I feel like most other things, you're spending so much goddamn time doing them, that it's like, this is your life. Like, this is literally your life happening in front of your eyeballs, and if you're treating it as, like, a thing that, like, is just happening and you want to just get through, like, it's like, that is literally, like, you are only living, like, 2/7 of your life because you just care about, like, Friday and Saturday, you know? Like, you're not trying to...
Yeah.
The rest of it's just... whatever.
And now, some major league insightful stuff. VO rowing workout metaphor.
Nick has this thing about, like, you're not supposed to add 10%, more than 10% of what you're already doing bulk to, like, your training. Like you shouldn't, like, if you
just
run...
for, I don't know what that, but just for health?
Yeah.
You'll hurt
just,
yourself?
Yeah, because if that is how it affects, or your body doesn't respond well to it. And I think that's true of, like, most things, is that, like, it won't stick. If you're making these huge changes in whatever you're trying to do, like... you'll do it for a few weeks and then you'll be tired and feel like that's not, like, normal. Whereas if you, like, slowly, steadily do a little bit more and forgive yourself when you don't do what you were, like, supposed to do.
And you see this as, like, a metaphor for, like, just changing anything?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that, like, rowing / watching Nick / watching, like, anyone that I've seen do anything cool, it's all about, like, little changes and, like, and it's not because I used to have this thing where I'd be on the erg and it would, like, hurt a lot, and, like, in my brain I would just be, like, scrambling for, like, why am I doing this? And, like, I need a reason, I need a cause, like, whatever, so that I'll stick to it, and that thing will give me strength. But it was really more of, like, no, you just need to pace better and, like, get better at this every day kind of thing. And it's not, like, these huge feats of whatever. It's, like...
Like, change isn't sexy. It's, like, little stupid details and hard work.
Yeah. And, like, doing something cool or, like, learning a new language or, like, whatever the big things you want to do are, like, those are all about, like, not focusing on how close you are to that thing as much as, like, just doing the thing you need to do that day to be a step closer, and not thinking about how many steps you have left, because then you just get kind of overwhelmed.
So that's it. Those are the 4 talks I recorded, organized in the best way I know how. I don't have any clean or easy takeaways, or any answers to the questions I posed at the start. I think all that's changed is I can talk more concretely about exactly what worries me about college. I'm a little more familiar with the forces tugging at my life. I've seen that fighting the real, adult-world enemies of exhaustion and tedium and meaninglessness has nothing to do with the navel-gazing wondering I thought. You have to do that moral, intellectual, and emotional work beforehand, and then just trust yourself. Causes are too abstract to get you through the day. And I think this is the best hope for people like me, who aren't sure what they're doing and suspect it might be evil. We'll listen to our parents, we'll give the job market and grades and all these forces our time and our commitment, because they have a monopoly on knowledge, because we can use them. But we can still refuse to be taught how to live. I think I'm supposed to be the sort of person who hates quotes, but I really, really like them. I'll end with one. Optimism is a strategy for making a better future, because unless you believe that the future can be better, it's unlikely you will step up and take responsibility for making it so. If you assume that there's no hope, you guarantee that there will be no hope. If you assume that there is an instinct of freedom, that there are opportunities to change things, there's a chance you may contribute to making a better world. The choice is yours. Noam Chomsky. So after 40 minutes of that, I gotta tell you that you could have just listened to Goodbye Weekend and gotten pretty much the same ideas. Sorry.
Sometimes rough, but generally speaking, I'm fine. If you don't agree with the things that go on within my life, well, honey, that's fine. Just know that you're wasting your time. Sort me, place me, give me a sign. Repeat the mantra when you're stepping out of line. Give me a number, something to be. May help out the country boy, but it won't work out on me. So don't go telling me how this boy should be leading his own life. Sometimes rough, but generally speaking, I'm fine. If you don't agree with the things that go on within my life, well, honey, that's fine. Just know that you're wasting your time. Sometimes rough, but generally speaking, I'm fine. If you don't agree with the things that go on within my life, well, honey, that's fine. Just know that you're wasting your time.